Hi, welcome back to the workshop for what is incredibly episode 30 of the ES335 build. Now for me it only seems like 5 minutes ago that I was in the workshop in the middle of summer, soaked in sweat trying to break down that great big lump of maple to make the blanks for the top and the back. So here we are 29 episodes later, and now it's time to get the neck properly fitted into the body. Okay, so in the last episode we got this neck tenon cut and we got the neck kind of almost in position, but it's not quite there yet. There is still kind of a little bit of a gap going on around the body to neck joint. So first thing we're going to do in this episode is get all that squared away so we get a nice tight neck fit all the way around the joint. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer and I'll explain what I mean. Okay, and as you can probably see through here, there's a bit of a gap. This is a 12 thou feeler gauge, and that goes in relatively easily. And it's a little bit tighter on this side, but not a lot. And if we turn it over, try and do that without moving it too much. You can see there's a gap right the way along this back edge. So to remedy this, the first thing I need to do is just make sure that all of these edges around this neck socket are absolutely square and straight. If there's any kind of undulations in there, and if they're not square kind of in this dimension there, that's going to hold the neck off one way or another. And also I need to make sure that these shoulders all the way around the neck are really nice and clean and square as well. And once we've sorted that out, hopefully we should be somewhere near getting this neck fitted properly. So to start this process, I'm just going to get the neck in, just have a look and see where I think it's been held off. And I think there's a little bit of material through here that's causing me a problem. So I'm just going to start with a very fine carving file, because I think, and this might confirm it, there's a bit of a hump in the middle of here. So I'm just going to start gently working that away. And I think it's going to be a case of kind of working this backwards and forwards, take a little bit of material out, check it, see where I need to take a little bit more out, until we eventually get to the point where this is all fitting nicely as it should do. So I think I'm going to go into fast forward mode, because this is probably going to take a little while. And I'm cleaning these edges up with a fine Iwasaka carving file. I used to use just a little plain file like this. But what I find is with these Iwasaka files is they actually take a little bit more material off Now you might think that's not a good thing on a fine job like this, but because they are taking quite a lot of material off, they tend to keep your edges very straight. Whereas with a file, it's hardly taking any material off at all. And what you can do is you can kind of rock it backwards and forwards and kind of inadvertently put a bit of a curve or take the corners off where you don't really want to. So I've started using these files over the last few months to do this sort of work with, and I've just found I've got much better results. These Irisaka files are absolutely brilliant. They're not particularly cheap, but they do an amazing job. If there comes a point in your guitar building career when you need some really nice carving files, I would recommend these any day of the week, and I assure you I'm not getting paid to say that. Okay, so I've been backwards and forwards at this for a little while now, and I've moved away from the feeler gauge, and I'm now using a Post-it note just to see where I'm at with this. Now if I put the Post-it note in the gap there, I can pull that right through, no trouble at all. So I know it's not being held off on this side. If I put it in here, it's all right until we get kind of to this corner here and it jams up, and then if we come in from that corner on the side, it's actually quite tight there, but it binds up in here. So what I'm thinking is I need to take some material out of here and a little bit out of here, and we'll have a pretty good joint then. And instantly that is much tighter everywhere apart from here. Where I can get the paper to go in and out really quite nicely. So now what I need to do is just take a tiny little fraction more off all the way around here, and hopefully that will drop it down so we've got contact on this face as well. By this point we're actually talking about fractions of a millimetre. Okay, so after a lot of toing and froing, I've kind of got those gaps down now to where I'd like them to be. Very tight, hardly able to even get a thin Post-it note in there. So that's really good. Hard to get a shot of this without moving the neck, but it is nice and tight in there as well. So the next thing we're going to do is start marking and measuring so we can get this neck trimmed down and fit the fingerboard to it. Okay, so the first step in getting this fingerboard attached is I've reinforced my centre mark on the ends so I can line it up in the correct position. So I'm simply going to get it into place. Just gently clamp it there. And I'm just going to mark out down the sides of the fretboard where I need to trim it down. And then just very quickly get that to the bandsaw and get that excess whipped off. And now I'm just going to clean these edges up as best I can, just with a hand plane. It's not vitally important that we get them to the exact shape at this stage, because obviously we're going to be carving this and most of this material will come off anyway. And if there's any bits we can't get, we'll just true that up to the side of the fretboard as part of the carving process. But I'll get what I can for the time being. Okay, so this neck is now pretty much in a position to get the fretboard glued onto it. However, the sharp-eyed amongst you will have noticed that the fretboard isn't ready yet, because we haven't got the side dots installed yet. And obviously that's easier to do now than it is when the neck's fitted. However, I think we've covered enough ground this time, so I'm going to leave that till the next episode. So as always, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Think about sharing some of these videos on social media if you think you've got friends that would be interested in watching them. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.